company, and this is The Dreaming Show. In today's episode, we are going to talk about how can I have a healthy relationship. My guest today is the wonderful DIVYA BANNERJEED. She is from Awakening the Inner Goddess. She's a women life strategy, corporate consultant, and motivational speaker. Hello, DIVYA. How are you?
Gaby. Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for being with us. Tell me a little bit about you, please.
So I'm from India. I was born there, and I came to Australia when I was 7. Had some difficulty assimilating into the culture here, but people were very warm and welcoming. So I think it was more of a personal thing. But as I grew up in my teenage life, I had a very rough period. I realized there was a few things that were taboo to discuss that happened within not just the immediate family, the extended family. I had a very tough time coping with that, and every time I would ask questions, I had doors shut in my face. So there were a lot of deep-seated insecurities and emotional issues that came up, which resulted in a lot of depression. So I went into a spiral of severe depression. I actually tried to commit suicide at one point. And I think it took me a long time to actually come out of that, and went through uni, really struggled, but pushed myself to finish because I always felt that there was a bigger purpose for me.
What do you study?
I did software engineering, of all things. From there I went into the corporate world. I started working in IT. I did quite well in there. Not many people would have even known there was a problem, but I hid it all underneath. And I think a lot of people who suffer from depression and anxiety and any sort of low confidence, I think we struggle. We put on a mask outside all the time, pretend that everything is okay.
The invisible mask.
That's right. We pretend we're so confident outside to everybody. Everybody thought that I had lots of friends. I was really social. I was just a lovable person, but inside I was drowning. I was really drowning, and I didn't know where to go for help. We did see a few psychologists, but I just couldn't find the answers I needed. And finally, after uni, I was in a relationship that didn't go very well. And once that fell over, I think it was my last straw, and I just turned to drinking and going out a lot. But then I met my husband, and then slowly, with his support, I was able to rebuild my life again.
How long have you been married?
7 years now. We've been together for 9 years. We've got 2 beautiful children. Thank you. Love my kids. Drive us crazy, but keep us entertained.
How old are they?
They are 3 and 1. So just getting personalities and attitude at the moment.
Tell me, what's the recipe to have a healthy relationship?
I think the best thing we could have done is really listen to each other. And the problem, I think, with relationships is it's really tough to listen with an open heart, because we tend to not only sabotage ourselves, we sabotage the relationship because we're not meeting our needs. So we all have a list of needs that we need to be met. And if we don't meet them ourselves, if we don't know how to meet it ourselves, we expect our partners to do it. And as women, we sort of we have this image of an impression of a relationship where we think the man is the knight in shining armor. That's what we're told as children. And so we fantasize that we're like these princesses, and they're going to come. And I don't mean that in, they're prissy, women are prissy or anything like that. I just mean that we fantasize about this man who'll come and rescue us and save us and change our world. Yeah, but in reality, until we really learn to do that for ourselves, we can't ask someone else to do that for us. And I think that's what we tend to do when we get into relationships initially. We're not judging them so much for that. We're just so happy to be in the relationships. We don't see the negatives. And then the moment we see some weakness or that kink in that armor, we just think, I didn't notice that before. You didn't show that before. You weren't open about that before. And we kind of tend to harbor things. And so I think it's really hard then at that point to not start resenting that person when in reality they've not really done anything wrong. There are relationships, obviously, where it does spiral downwards because they're both very toxic for each other. But I think in general, relationships, it just becomes toxic because of all of that negativity. But I think the best thing you can do is just really open your heart and listen, because that person married you for a reason, or you're in this relationship for a reason. And if you think back to that moment and you really identify why you were in this relationship, what you loved about that person, and you start to focus on those qualities rather than what you're missing, and listen to how that person is really trying to love you in their own way, rather than in the way you want them to love you, I think that's what makes the biggest difference.
Yeah. Working with people as well, Divya, I can realize people focus on the negativity, the problems. You are sleeping badly, you are talking badly, instead of focusing in the good thing.
Yeah.
Remember the past, for example, when I got married. I love you.
That's right. And I think that's the magical moment when you first meet that person and your heart's beating and you're just so pumped with adrenaline, you know, and you feel alive. That's how you should be feeling all the time, you know. But it's hard to sustain that, and physically your body cannot sustain that level of adrenaline constantly. But having said that, you have to work to build that in your relationship
every single day.
Absolutely. And I think the times when it's the weakest is when you've got to realize how much you really love each other. Because at that point is when you know you're still together for a reason. At the time when it's the weakest, because both of you could leave and walk away at any time, but you're together to make this work. And so that's the time you really need to start listening and really understanding the other person.
You are right. It's a work of two people. It's not just one.
Yeah, I mean, the book, The 5 Love Languages, is amazing because it talks about the different types of love languages that you can have. And so if people want to read that, I highly recommend it, because, you know, there's different ways we show love. And just because I like touch and you know, someone to look deep into my eyes like most women do and be all sensual and that sort of thing, doesn't mean that that's how my husband would like it. So, you know, just because I show him in that way, he thinks by helping me around the house and doing lots of housework, that's what's expected, and I would love it, which I do. But I would prefer him to take the time and sit with me and really listen to me, you know, as women would.
Could I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
Do you think the men can also help the women at home? I mean, cooking, washing.
I think they should. I think it's getting to a point in society now where women are also expected to work as well as manage the house. And I think the same expectations should be there for men. I'm not saying they should all be doing the same jobs. You know, there are certain jobs that I think should be dedicated to one person and certain jobs dedicated to another person, but it's an equal partnership. We get into marriage as a partnership. There is no dominance of one person over the other, because then the relationship starts to be more about power and control. And then you're constantly fighting and you're trading for love. You know, if I do this, then you will do this for me. And if you don't do that, then I'm going to withhold affection from you. Even subconsciously, even if you don't mean to do it, the normal status becomes, well, I'm going to test you. You know, women do that. We test men, right? We always test men because we want reassurance. So we'll always say, oh, you know, I don't want you. Oh, no, I don't want to talk to you. But secretly we're hoping he comes and makes things up.
I want to talk to you.
That's right. We've got double standards about everything, you know, when it comes to what we say and what we think. But that's because I think we've got a lot personally, emotionally to deal with as well. We have hormones, you know, that rage through our system. We can't explain what we're thinking half the time, you know, in a month. So how do we expect the guy to understand what we're thinking, you know? So I think we've got a lot to manage ourselves first. And then we can have the expectations of the other person. But first, we need to know what we want before we can tell the man what we want. We can't just be confusing them.
Everything comes within us.
And it's the same for men as well. Men need to really absolutely be sure. I know a lot of men who are very sure about what they want in career, in terms of work, where they belong, you know, in terms with a group of guys, the hierarchy where they sit, you know, the alpha male and all that sort of stuff. But in a relationship, they're completely lost. They don't know what they want, where they're going. They don't have a clear direction. They don't know what their woman really wants, what the children want, what's the expectation around the house. And I think to get really clear on that.
As you say, is listening. Listening and communication is vital.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I've got a question. Could you answer, please? It's Lorraine from Melbourne, Australia. This lady says, I'm 61 years old and I have been married for 7 years so far. I'm living in hell because my husband always abused of me verbally, insulting me because I wasn't able to give babies to him. I'm feeling like a tree without fruits, very dry. Also, it's affecting my emotional and physical health. What can I do, please?
Yeah.
Tell us, please.
I think the first thing to note there is you're 61. You know, it's not easy to have children at this age regardless.
And also he knew
That's
at
right.
that time that he was probably 54.
Yeah. Or she was 54 at that time.
Yeah.
He might have even been older, younger, I'm not sure. But it sounds to me that there were unrealistic expectations to start with in this relationship when they got involved. Because at 54, it's very difficult for most women to even think about having a child. And even if they want to have children, physically, it's not really viable for many women to have children at that point. So that's the first step. I'm not sure if she's punishing herself for not being able to have children because she feels inadequate. That's what it sounds like. But you've got to face reality because at 54, there's a very slim chance that you're going to, I mean, even in 40s, women struggle. You know, I know it's getting later and later that women have children, but that's the first step. You know, you've got to accept that it's not your fault. It's not, and there is no blame in this either. You know, it's just the age. You've gotten to a point where you physically possibly cannot have children. But if you can, let's just say that there was the possibility that you could and you weren't able to. I think, firstly, verbal abuse is never acceptable. It's never acceptable. Any form of abuse is never acceptable in a relationship. So it comes down to the fact of how much do you really value yourself? How much do you really appreciate yourself? And how much do you see you're getting out of the relationship as well?
How much do you love yourself?
Yeah, that's right. How much do you love yourself? But also, how much are you really putting into the relationship, but also getting back from the relationship? But if you feel like you're the one always giving, not feeling understood, being ridiculed, criticized, abused, then it's probably not a healthy place to be. But I would say work on yourself first. Figure out what it is that's really making you insecure, what's really hurting you, and how can you have your needs met. So what are the needs? There are 6 needs normally. There's Anthony Robbins, as you know, who walks through the 6 human needs, and I'm a big fan of those. So they are certainty, variety, significance, love and connection, growth, and contribution. So I would start with those as a base. I would go through those and see which of those you're not meeting. And I would rate them first and then say which is most important to you. And then I would focus on those 2 and see how you can build those back in your life. For example, if it's certainty and you've never really had much certainty, security, and that means stability in your life. You know, has that been missing in your life? Or have you been missing variety in your life? Do you like surprises? You know, that sort of thing. So see how you can patch that up within yourself first. And once you start to build a level of self-love, use affirmations. I'm a big believer of affirmations. Do all of that first.
Could you tell, please, 3 affirmations that she can use?
I think it's very different for each person. But for me, what I love to do is I love to go and look in a mirror. And I look deep into my eyes because I know that when I look in my eyes and say something, I know whether I actually believe it or not. It's so powerful because I've looked at myself and I've said, I love you. And I can see this disbelief instantly in my body. Yeah, my body twitches, my eyes kind of shrink a little bit, and I see that. And I think that's a first test that you can do for yourself. So I would go to a mirror and I would try that first. I love you. Then I would say, I deserve the best. I deserve.
I like that.
Yeah, I deserve the best. And I'm worthy. I'm worthy of unconditional love. Because the one thing I always say to women is, you are abundant. You were born perfect. There is nothing wrong with you. There were no mistakes made when the universe created you, when your parents created you. You are absolute perfection. there is nothing anyone can say to change that, or anyone can do to change that to you. Not your husband, not your partner, not your mother or your father anyone. Nobody, not a friend. Not society. Media has a tendency, and society has a tendency to do that too, but no one can change that. You are perfect. So what can you do to realize that perfection? What can you do to realize how worthy you are? What are the skills and talents that you have? What are you good at? What are your strengths? What's your passion? There's so many things that women are good at. You know, they just need to work on it and find that creativity again. As children, we're so creative. Feminine flow is a feminine energy that's creative, it's that powerful. Aligns with the universe. It's a creative. We give birth. We make babies. So it naturally. I mean, I know not all women are able to do that or want to do that, but that doesn't mean that their creativity is any less. You know, your creativity is always there. You've just got to use it. You've got to find that passion again and really push and drive yourself towards that, because that's when you'll really truly be authentic and you'll be happy.
Do you think Lorraine needs help?
I do, because no, that sounds bad actually. What I mean is I think she does need some guidance, and she needs support. Whether that's from her family, from friends, whoever she can talk to and open up and share this with and get advice. Get as much advice as possible. Doesn't have to be a professional. Yes, you can go and see a professional. You can see a life coach. You can see, and psychologists, counselors, numerous people, social services. You can also go to them if it's abuse. So there's a lot of different things you can do to help yourself. But first, I would start by talking to the people around you that are closest to you, and get their support.
Speak up.
Yeah, that's right. Because that's the first step. And then if you're not getting enough help there, then you can start to look outwards. Or if you feel you're struggling and you hit a block, then look for a professional who can help you. Because the people that you surround yourself with really determines the quality of your life.
Amazing answer, Divya. Thank you very much. Please, could you tell us your business, website? How can we contact you, please?
Oh, I'd love to. So I work for a company called Awaken the Inner Goddess, and we basically help women deal with depression and anxiety. That's our main program. We have a 6-week program that we do over the phone, Skype, in person, whatever's comfortable. It's all about the person and empowering them, empowering the women. So that's one of the options. The other thing we're working on is we're looking to help women in abusive relationships. So that's the next step, but there's more to come on that. So yes, please do stop by our website. We're offering free sessions as well for women. There's a free 30-minute session for everyone. Yeah.
So you offer 30 minutes free session, I think?
Yeah, I mean, I say 30 minutes, but if it needs to go over and we really need to resolve a problem, what I say to people is think of a problem that you'd like resolved, an immediate problem in your life, and we'll resolve it on the spot for you. And there's no need to, no obligation to continue on or anything like that. It's just something, my gift to you.
Thank you very much, Divya. Thank you for being with us. All the best. See you next time. Bye.